Hello everyone, my name is Pavel Matuszczyk. I am an Assistant Director of Studies and a tutor for Departmental Language Programme organised by English Language Teaching Centre at the University of Sheffield. I teach language and academic skills to current university students as well as to pre-sessional students. My session today will be 25 minutes long. You will have a chance to ask me questions related to this presentation using the chat box in the last 5 minutes of this session. So, my session today will be divided into 4 sections. First, we will discuss the theoretical background of this issue. Then we will focus on the reasons for silence in the classroom. Next, we will analyze the possible consequences of that situation on learning. And finally, I will share some ideas that may help to solve this problem. So why this topic? At the place where I work, the ELTC, we have a lot of Asian, mainly Chinese students on our programs. When we had lessons, I noticed that a lot of them were fairly quiet in the classroom. This often happens when I ask them an open class question. Students decided to remain silent. They would just look around, waiting for others to answer. So we ended up with an awkward silence. This situation made me think that this is something to investigate, to explore more, to find the reasons why this happens. So let's discuss the theoretical background of this situation first. The students unwilling to speak English in the classroom may be going through the so-called silent periods. This is the time when learners refrain from initiating interaction with speakers of the new language they are learning, and they build their confidence through listening with a very limited communication with second language speakers. So in this phase, the speech is limited to imitations or routines, not a spontaneous action. Students may be familiar with certain phrases and may know what to say in a given situation, but when they are faced with an open question, when they need to give their opinion, produce new sentences, they may struggle. It may be the case that some students have not reached that stage of creative language production yet. So, what may be other reasons why our students are unwilling to communicate in English? Let's discuss these now. Granger compares silence to a loss, ambivalence and conflict, the stage when a learner is suspended between the first language self and the second language self. When students feel that the new second language self is not ready yet to communicate in English, they may opt for silence. Another very important factor to consider is foreign language anxiety. For many of our students, it is the first time when they travel and live abroad. They may feel overwhelmed with everything that is going on around them, the university, people, new environment, and that everything is in English. They may feel anxious, stressed, and somehow blocked when faced with situations when they need to use English and the language they hear does not sound exactly like the English they were learning in their home country. I can say I felt the same way when I went to live in Spain. My Spanish at that time was not great, and I had to sort something out in the post office with a super fast southern accent speaking Spanish clerks. It was a very, very stressful situation for me, so I can understand how our students may feel at times. Sometimes when I ask students why they are not willing to speak in the classroom, they would say that they are simply shy. However, they are not shy if allowed using their first language, for example, during the break. So their shyness is only visible when using English, and their L2 self, second language self, is not ready to speak up. Another important aspect here is their fear of failure or being negatively evaluated. Some students may fear that they may lose face if saying something incorrectly. They don't want to be negatively evaluated by their teacher or their peers for saying something that is not accurate grammatically or stylistically in a given context, so they may choose to wait until they are ready to say it correctly. Another reason that should be considered is fear. In our classroom situation, fear of public speaking may have a form of students being afraid to say what they think in front of everyone. Some students may fear negative comments or corrections of their language. They may not want to hear that they are wrong and the way they speak is wrong by the teacher or other students. If this is done in front of other students, they may fear that they could lose face, and this is something they would like to avoid. This is especially relevant for students from Asian countries. Therefore, they opt for silence. Students may fear that when they are negatively evaluated and corrected, it means that possibly they should not be in this class, in this level. They may feel discredited in front of the others. Now, I would like to say a little bit more regarding the fear of being criticized as an important issue when it comes to opting for silence in the classroom. I agree with Thornbury that to criticize somebody's language is to criticize them. Our students may feel this way. Since their language and identity are closely related, they may see the criticism of their language as the criticism of their personality, of them as a person. They don't want to be criticized, so they opt for silence, thinking that they cannot be criticized for something they haven't done. Even if you have good intentions with your constructive criticism, students may not see it in the same way. Therefore, they prefer to stay silent. Another factor that is also important to mention here is the culture. In my context, I would be thinking about Asian students, their culture, and how they see the role of a teacher, what learning styles they are used to, and how they perceive the so-called face saving. In terms of what is expected from students in Asian countries, Ng and Smith assert that a good student in Asia is expected to listen and memorize knowledge well, but not necessarily to speak well. So, in other words, speaking has not been a priority. Now, when these students are in a new environment, they may not be ready to speak just yet. They may need more time to adjust to this new situation. I mentioned before that one of the cultural reasons for opting for silence could be connected with the traditional role of a teacher. Confucianism, as a popular philosophical doctrine in Asia, emphasizes the role of a teacher as being a person of authority, a person that students should listen to, obey their instructions, and not question them. It is not expected from students to speak up, come up with opinions, or challenge the teacher. If our students come from schools where this philosophy was followed, it may take some time for them to adjust to the environment where they are encouraged and expected to share their views and in general to speak in the classroom. We should also mention that there might be other reasons for silence, more personal reasons. For example, students may lack interest in a given topic. They may have no knowledge or no opinion on a certain topic. It is important for us to think about topics and questions we ask our students. We should ask ourselves, is it something our students would like to talk about? Is it important for them? Another personal reason could be simply that students don't like each other. they are not interested in each other's opinion and don't want to share their own. You may be able to notice that when you set up a group work task, so pay attention. Finally, other reasons that may influence students opting for silence in the classroom may be that students lack self-confidence to use English at that point in time. Maybe they need more time. Maybe their second language self is not ready yet. For example, they may not feel confident enough to deliver a presentation in English or express their opinion in longer utterance. Another reason is that they may simply not understand the question or the task given. If they don't want to, we can say challenge the teacher by asking them to explain further or rephrase the question. The result is that they just remain passive and silent and want to just wait it out. So, what could be possible consequences of silence in the classroom? So, the possible consequences of silence in the classroom could be as follows. Language anxiety that may negatively affect foreign language achievement. Anxiety may lead to less effort. When students are stressed and anxious and opt for silence, they are not practicing the language. They become passive, and this may lead to less progress being made. Their interaction with other students may become minimal. Now, when such students compare themselves with others in the class, perhaps more willing to communicate, more willing to speak and practice their language, they may see that others are making progress and they are not, which in turn may lead to more anxiety. So, how can we help our students to be willing to communicate in English more? Yashima points out that willingness to communicate can only be enhanced and developed through the social processes and communicating with others. It takes two to tango. So the first thing that we need to do is to create positive social environment for students so the process of communication can occur. Provide students with opportunities for social interaction in the classroom that encourages the learners to feel that their identity is respected and that they can and should be willing to communicate. Integrate conversation opportunities into your lessons, be it at the beginning of the session or at the end or whenever you feel students may benefit from a conversation. Let students work in groups as much as possible. Still, working in groups may be something your students are not used to. They might have been working individually in their previous schools, and it may take time for them to get used to, but I would strongly encourage you to do so. There is a chance that they will open up more and start using English and communicating quicker when interacting with their peers rather than with you as a teacher. Once the students are in groups, give them freedom to solve the task or discuss a problem how they see fit. Avoid standing behind their backs, as this could create tension and unnecessary stress. Students will know that you're standing there and listening to every word they say, so they may feel that they have to say everything correctly to avoid being judged, evaluated, or corrected by you, and potentially losing face in front of the other group members. It may sound as a good idea to motivate the use of language correctly, but if they are not able to do so at this stage, they may opt for silence. So I would suggest keeping your distance in this case and refrain yourself from correcting the individuals in front of their peers. To find out what the group have discussed, you may want task groups to nominate a speaker, a summarizer of their discussion, who will report back the discussion when they finish. Here, it is important to let them choose that person among themselves, so they don't feel pressured by you as a teacher. You may ask them to choose different speakers every time they do such a task, so this role is not owned just by those most willing to talk. Now, if the students gradually feel more confident to communicate with their group members, this enhanced self-confidence may result in more use of the target language. When students feel that they are not criticized, not judged for their speaking performance, they may open up further and hopefully use the target language more. So, what else can we do to enhance their self-confidence? Here we have some ideas that you may apply into your own practice. Show concern. Show that you care about their performance and praise their efforts. You may add to your lesson an element of reflection at the end where students may note what they have learned on that day. No matter how small that could be, this may give students an element of achievement, and this may in turn lead to a boost in their self-confidence. Another thing to enhance student self-confidence you can do is to set realistic short-term goals. Let me give you my example. I did it with my Korean students who were shy and afraid of public speaking. I asked them to prepare a mini presentation about a chosen topic. However, I didn't ask them to make it long and full of slides, but to choose how much they are happy to present. It could be 2 slides, only introduction, or it could be a full presentation. They were asked to present it in small groups first, 3 to 4 students, and then when they felt comfortable, they could present it to the whole class. They were praised for their efforts, shown how much they improved step by step, and asked to extend their presentations, make them longer for the following week. So finally, all of them at different times ended up presenting a full 10 minutes presentation to the whole class. They admitted that their self-confidence increased and stress level was low. If you do feel that you would like to point out things to improve though, do it in a tactful manner, talking to the student individually without other students listening. Still, try to focus on the positives. Another aspect to consider is developing resourceful speakers rather than focusing on native speaker competence. Let the students communicate in their own way. Let them use the target language as they see fit. Let them own the language. Let them just finish the communicative task. Even if they make mistakes at this stage, this is not that important. It is about enhancing their self-confidence and willingness to communicate. The time for corrections may come later, when they already feel confident and they are happy to accept corrections or even mild constructive criticism of their performance. Again, at this stage, when you want to boost self-confidence, let them change the target language into their own language, the language they need in a particular context. Being resourceful here also refers to pointing students to use all available resources, tools, to use the language and to communicate more. It could be things like chatting with English speakers on social media or while playing games, making conversations in everyday situations, for example, during shopping, clubbing, or even learning from watching TV in English and using overheard phrases in a specific context. So basically, using any resources available to communicate. So, to summarize, these are the aspects that we should pay attention to. Create opportunities for your students for social interaction. Enhance their self-confidence. Let your students own the language and let them be resourceful. If we do that, there is a greater chance that our students will be more willing to interact and communicate in English. So this sums up my talk today. Here is a list of the resources that I used when I was preparing my presentation. If you wish to contact me, you can do it by email or Twitter. And now I would like to invite you to the live Q&A session where you can ask any potential questions you may have related to my presentation. Thank you very much.